Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. So the federal government has released their proposed compensation amounts for their mandatory buyback. And of course I use buyback in scare quotes here because buybacks aren't normally a thing. You know, if a company sells you a couch and they decide that they didn't really want to sell you that couch, they can't come into your house, take the couch, and leave money behind. That would ordinarily be considered a theft. So the only way this isn't a theft is if you're a government and you're giving yourself permission. So when they say buyback, that's really just a propaganda term for they want to seize these guns. And they're proposing to give you a little something, in return. Now, I'll bring the numbers up here just so that you can look at them. They're in these very broad categories. So they're proposing that for an AR, any AR, they're going to give you $1,337, which lots of people have pointed out looks like it's a meme amount, leet. It also is really similar to a number Bill Blair just threw out from, just a sort of out of his pocket number of $1,400 on average for an AR. Now, that was before they spent literally millions of dollars paying IBM to draft a report for numbers on this. So we spent millions of dollars on this, and it just happens to look like the back of the napkin figures we're getting from Bill Blair. And in fact, when you look at this list, it looks very much like something you might sketch out on a napkin, or something that somebody might have, put on an essay question in an exam after the teacher called, 1 minute remaining, and you're just trying to get something on the page to get some points. This is ridiculously sparse. So we see for CX4 Storm, 1,317, M14s, 2,612. If we look all the way at the bottom, they're saying that 50 caliber rifles, they're thinking that the appropriate amount is $2,819. I'm not sure anywhere that you would have gotten a 50 caliber rifle for that price. The basic entry level models were going for more than that. And quite frankly, a lot of those guns are in the at least tens of thousands of dollars of range, even when you don't consider any modifications, any, enhancements. People might have them tuned up, trigger jobs, that kind of thing. Not to mention optics that would go with the rifle. And if you bought this rifle for the purpose of long distance target shooting, which is pretty much all anyone bought them for, there have been 0 homicides with these rifles in the history of Canada. But if you bought them for, target shooting, that's probably why you bought the optic. You're not going to have a whole lot of use for it. So that's not included here either. You're just going to get nothing for that. So lots of people have pointed out that these numbers are both represent a flawed way of looking at it. Because, of course, saying an AR is like saying a Ford. And that Ford might be some rusted out old, bit of garbage, or it might be like a Model T that's been lovingly preserved through the ages and is worth, huge amounts of money. So lots of people have pointed out that, in terms of the principle, it's bad, and also the numbers are way too low. But this is the sucker's game that they're trying to get everyone to play. Because really, at this point, they're wanting all of the dialogue to be about the numbers. Is this enough money or is it not enough money? And maybe they stick with these numbers. And I know they've got a consultation going on. I'll link it below if you want to, send them your thoughts on this. But they've got a consultation going on about the numbers. Who knows if they're actually listening, if they're going to change that at all. But ultimately, they might stick us with these numbers, and then they can just say, gun owners were okay with the confiscation. They just wanted more money. Or they might up it, and they say, listen, we listened to gun owners. Those initial amounts were too small, and now we've raised it. And maybe a lot of people sort of grudgingly go, at least we're not getting that, $1,400 that they initially proposed. They raised it to $1,800. So maybe I'm a little happier now. This is just some public relations management because they want to take it to a situation where we're haggling over price instead of pointing out that they shouldn't be doing this in the first place, that this is not something that has any relationship to public safety, that this is not something that has any relationship to anything other than the falling poll numbers for the Liberal Party and them wanting to run elections on gun issues. They think that that's their winning issue because it's certainly not the economy. It's certainly not housing, which they've promised to improve repeatedly. And if you look at house prices, things aren't getting any better. So this is really what they want to make this about. They want to run elections on this issue because they think this is more popular. But they know that this won't save any lives. They know that this won't improve anything. And they know, in fact, that this is going to send a lot of people who are morally innocent to jail, including a disproportionate number of Indigenous individuals. This is a law that will have a disproportionate impact on Indigenous people. These numbers are also sufficiently low that they're not going to provide much incentive for people to comply. And they do need that incentive. They do need people to want to comply. They also are going to be looking at, I mentioned those Indigenous groups who they specifically recognized may have a need to hunt with these guns. That's baked into the Order in Council. So the problem is that if those people are sitting there going, hey, listen, I hunt with this to survive and for cultural reasons, but I can't get an equivalent rifle for what they're proposing to pay as compensation because the compensation is so low, there may be a whole lot of people going, I don't really know if this is something I want to do. And of course, I'm not encouraging that. That would be illegal. It's not a good idea. But we shouldn't be tempting people into crime. That's not good policy. The other thing here is that there's going to be a whole lot of people who end up still possessing these firearms because they just don't realize that there's been a ban. And really, if they're going to be picking a compensation amount, it should be enough that people maybe have an incentive to go and check their gun safes, their closets, wherever their guns are stored, and go, maybe, do I have one of these? Yeah, this is really frustrating. It's really, as I said, this is a bit of a shell game when they want us to talk numbers. Really, the discussion should be about there is no point to what they're doing. What they're doing is offensive because they're deceiving the public and they're targeting people who are no danger, who have done nothing wrong in order to sort of, this is populism. When people condemn populist, practices, that's what we're talking about here. This is really, it's objectionable and it's going to actually cause harm in the real world. Much more harm than any, supposed benefit. Anyway, thank you for watching. That's, I guess, my little rant on this one. Lots of people have asked me for my comments. I guess those are my initial comments. We're still waiting to see more of what they'll have to say. So when we get that, I may have some further things to say on this one. Anyway, thank you for watching. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters at the $50 level, Canada's National Firearms Association, the CCFR, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. At the $30 level, Sights and Arms Limited and Marc-Olivier Demour. And at the $20 level, Mick Tain, Mark, Jane Babin, Luxor, Haywire, Dale Nesbitt, Cameron Johnson, Bruno R., Andrew Elsich, and Vicky. Thank you as well to my $10 supporters who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you for watching. I hope this has armed you with knowledge, and see you next time.